Honestly, I was sitting here for, I don't know, 15 seconds wondering how am I going to start season two? And I literally just clicked record because I'm like, all right, let's go with the same way that I started and pretty much carried out through season one with not having much of anything scripted. And we'll just see where that takes us. So, welcome to season two of the Roaming Thoughts podcast. It's been a minute. If you guys are listening on, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, a cup phone, whatever, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, I think you can actually watch on Spotify too now. But if you're watching the podcast, you'll see that I've kind of like done a little something something with it. So, yeah, this episode, you guys, is episode one, season two, Halloween movie characters. Who would win in a fight? So, if you remember from season one, I think I did Christmas movie characters. And as I was going through this, I honestly thought that, like, I thought I did this before because it was just coming back so like vividly that I must have already played this scenario out in my head at one point in time. So we're making an episode out of it. If you guys were listening last season, we ended on episode 21. And honestly, it wasn't intentional that I knew that I was going to have seasons, but I didn't know when one would end and another would start. And I thought that it was going to be kind of ironic with ending on episode 21 because of the significance of episode 21 for podcasts. And I won't like get into why it's significant. You guys can go back and listen to that episode. But it wasn't intentional that I was going to end season one there. But I do think it was kind of interesting how it just sort of naturally happened. So now we're back, season two. And yeah, so I thought, hey, we've got a couple days before Halloween, and I've kind of got like a general, like the first few episodes of season two kind of already somewhat figured out, structured, at least the topic. All right, at least the topic. But you guys know how it works. I don't necessarily have much pre-planned, but we do have some things straightened out for today's episode. Let's just get into it, okay? Very simple. If you were gonna take Halloween characters, not the Halloween movie, but like Halloween movies, the genre, which, I don't know, villain, bad guy, serial killer, whatever, who would win in a fight? Okay. And so we're gonna walk through. I honestly don't know if I want to go, because I think last season what I did is I went through and I gave you guys, like, for the Christmas movies, I gave you like every single person that was going to be in this like battle or tournament or whatever you want to call it. And I think for this episode, we're going to try just going through like, all right, the first fight would be so and so. And then we'll kind of work our way so that I'm not giving away who all is in this giant like battle bracket thing. But I will say this: if you are watching the podcast, I am going to pull up on the screen here and there, like who the winners were per se. So, but maybe I'll do that towards the end. I'll probably do that after round two, because after round two, you guys will know everybody. But after round one, you'll see there's a couple characters do get a first round bye, because I put 12 people into this who would win in a fight battle bracket. And so I'll show you guys, if you're watching, I'll show you after round two, everybody. So we're just going to get right into it. Like I said, not much prep for this. I wrote down, like, honestly, just like the first ones that came to mind. And so I came up with 12, and we'll go through them. I have not given it much thought other than ranking them. I rank them myself 1 through 12. So if you disagree with my rankings, come at me. If you if I miss somebody that you guys are like, how could he not include this person or this character, this movie character in this Halloween battle? Definitely let me know, because I felt like I was missing somebody all along. And that'll drive me crazy. So maybe you guys can point out the super obvious person. But there are a couple in here that I don't think you're expecting. And I don't know. Like I said, I ranked them. But I have not considered like anything at all. So we're literally going to make this roaming thought like together, and I'm just going to go with it, and we're going to see who wins. As I was going through and ranking them, I really had this fear that because I was ranking them based off of just like first initial thought, I hope that it doesn't turn out to be like that's who wins it. You know, number one seed wins it, and the like it was number one versus number two, something like that. That's what I'm hoping doesn't happen. But again, we're gonna just see how it goes. So a couple things that I am gonna consider though is the age and or time period from when these characters were relevant, when they were in their movie, when they were supposed to be from. Okay, that's one thing I'll consider. Second thing is weaponry. Do they have any type of physical objects that help them in a confrontation? Magic included. Okay. Size, are they large human beings? I guess they won't, not all of these are even human beings. So are they large beings or are they small? Are they on the heavier side, lighter side, whatever? I also have something to consider is the die ability. The die ability. So have they died before? And did they come back to life? Have they been killed multiple times? What is that all about? So we're going to look at die ability, made up word, I'm sure. And then the demise. That's one of the other things that I'm going to consider is like, where's their weak point? Okay. Especially with the matchups, right? Because maybe it might be advantageous for some character going up against another, but we'll see. We'll talk it out. It's going to be all up here and we're going to get it all out to you guys together. So, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to season 2 and let's get it started. Okay, so the very first matchup, like I said, there are 12 Halloween movie characters that we're going to see who would win in a fight. The first matchup, we have the 8 seed and the 9 seed. Okay, so the 8 seed coming from the 1986 classic It is Pennywise. All right, we have Pennywise going up against the number 9 seed from the 1996 film Scream. We've got the Slasher, so Ghostface. All right, so we've got Pennywise versus Slasher. Initial thoughts. The clowns have, I think, like a scare factor that you really can't even compete with. Like you look at zombies or vampires or witches, clowns are always in their own like echelon of horror. And so I think that right off the first get-go, like I said, I am just now brainstorming this with you all. So right off the bat, I'm thinking, okay, clowns, not a big fan of. But in all fairness, and I'll say this, I am probably going to be a bit biased on this matchup because A, when I was younger, not a fan of clowns whatsoever. But B, the Scream movies are probably, in my opinion, some of the best horror movies ever made. Big fan of Wes Craven, director. And I like movies. I like scary movies where you're like, well, that actually probably it's a realistic possibility that could happen in our world, right? And so Scream with Slasher, like that's a classic like oh yeah, that could happen in my small town type of thing, right? Not really, but realistically, like yeah, technically, like there's no magic involved, right? This is you're trying to catch the serial killer, right? So when I look at Pennywise and Slasher, weaponry, they both got blades, right? It's been a hot minute since I watched the original It. I haven't even seen the new one, so I'll admit to that. All right. But I think they both got weaponry. And as much as I want to give this to Slasher Ghostface, I think I'm gonna have to go with Pennywise. You know what? Let's look up real quick. We're gonna do a search here. And you know what? For those that are tuned in right now to this on YouTube or you're watching it on Spotify, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll share my screen here for you guys. And we're gonna see if we can't get some stats on this person, all right? I'm gonna just type in Pennywise size. Okay, so in the new one, we're saying 6'3". I don't really know about that because I'm going off the 1986 one. Slasher Ghostface. Let's see how tall. Okay, so we're saying about 5'10". So I guess size-wise, maybe we've got Pennywise with the advantage there. If we look at weaponry, like I said, I would say it's about a horse apiece. Age, time period, it was pretty much present day, dieability, demise. I think I'll have to give this one, I'm going to give this one to Pennywise. Okay, so right off the bat, I will go Pennywise is going to advance to the next round. From It, 1986, Pennywise. Okay, the second matchup in the Who Would Win in a Fight Halloween Movie Character Edition, we have the 5 seed. The 5 seed from the 1974 very scarring movie. I remember watching this one as a kid, and this might have like been the scariest movie. I remember watching this at my grandparents' house with my older cousins, just a million degrees because I'm hiding under this blanket and I can't breathe, but I'm so terrified that I'm not going to like expose myself to what I see on the TV screen. 1974 classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The 5 seed, we have Leatherface against the 12 seed. So this is quite a stretch here. 12 seed from the 1993 Hocus Pocus. We have Mary Sanderson. So if you guys maybe aren't familiar with Hocus Pocus or the specific names of the Sanderson sisters, Mary is the heavier set one that rides the vacuum, I think, when those little girls steal all of their brooms. Yeah, she's the one that takes the vacuum. I don't want to beat around the bush with this one, you guys. This is very straightforward. I don't know on what planet Leatherface would not beat Mary Sanderson in this one. So we're going to just not waste any time. I'm going to throw Leatherface into the second round. And we're going to move on, okay? Here we've got the 7 and the 10 matchup, all right? 7 versus 10. I'll give you the 10 seed first, all right? The number 10 seed is coming from Child's Play, 1988, Chucky, everybody's favorite creepy doll, all right? Let's just talk about the significance of the character Chucky first off. Dolls are kind of creepy to begin with, but this had to have like instilled in people's minds the true creepiness factor that dolls really can possess. So that's what we're up against, okay? Number 10 seed Chucky, Child's Play 1988, is going up against 1998 movie. So we have a 1988 Child's Play going up against 1998 Disney Channel original movie, Halloween Town. I couldn't not pick it, you guys. I had to put it in there. Halloween Town, we have Calabar. So if you are not familiar with Halloween Town, it's definitely not like a traditional horror movie. It's more of like a family fun Halloween movie, okay? Calabar is like the main villain of that first Halloween Town movie. He's a warlock that basically is just evil and wants to take over the world. Well, actually, he wants to. I won't ruin it. I won't ruin it. Watch Halloween Town if you haven't. But you have essentially a warlock versus a possessed little doll. So this one, 7 Calabar the warlock versus 10 Chucky the doll. Like, I just feel like in a practical world where we're talking about a living doll and a warlock, I just don't understand how this doll can wreak such havoc. So unfortunately, there's not going to be a debate on this one. I'm going to advance the warlock Calabar from Halloween Town onto the second round. Chucky, you're out of here to begin with. I think I'm being semi-fair with this one because look at size, just size alone. Okay, size alone. Adult warlock versus a doll, which is a couple feet tall. Okay, then you add in the factor that Chucky is just messed up and weird, but Calabar is a warlock, so he has magical powers. So I don't think in any sense of the imagination you could have this doll winning. So we're going to put Calabar on to the next round. I think I'm being fair because of that, plus the fact that, yes, I'm not... Chucky was creepy when I was a kid, all right? Clowns were creepy when I was a kid, but I took the high road and I did put Pennywise the Clown onto the next round, so I feel 100% okay with throwing Chucky to the side and saying he's not making it out of the opening round. So the last and final matchup of the opening round for Halloween movie characters who would win in a fight is Battle of the Sisters, both from the 1993 movie Hocus Pocus. At the 11 seed, you have Sarah Sanderson. So Jogging Memories, played by Sarah Jessica Parker. And number 6 seed, kind of the leader of the sisters, Winifred Sanderson. So this one is, you can make a case. I really think you can make a case for Sarah Sanderson if it came down to it, right? If they were in a head-to-head, who's going to win in a fight? Sarah is probably more physically fit than Winifred. I think Winifred's the oldest, but you'd have to, I mean, somebody fact check me on that one. I don't know. So I would say you've got Sarah's benefits are probably age, physical fitness, and the fact that she can like sing and hypnotize. But I don't know if the singing and hypnotizing thing is just for children or if it can apply to anybody. Because if you remember in Hocus Pocus, she flies above Salem and sings her whatever and is hypnotizing kids to like just walk to the Sandersons' house, right? But and that was my original thought, was like, well, that's her real advantage, right? She could just sing to Winifred and possibly, I don't know, beat her in a fight that way. But then I was thinking, all in the span of the last, like, I don't know, 30 seconds, in the movie, all 3 Sanderson sisters go to the town hall or wherever that big city party, like the town Halloween party was that all the adults were at. And if you remember, they sang, "I Put a Spell on You," right? And when they were singing that song, they essentially put the parents under a spell. So I don't know if that was like all 3 of the sisters have that's like power. And the only reason that Sarah was doing that with the children was because like she's the best at it. Or if they really all 3 can do it, and that, the 3 of them doing it is, it can affect adults. I don't really know. Maybe it's because she had the better voice. I'm not sure. But let's just, for the sake of the argument, like that's what Sarah brings to the table. Now, Winifred, she's the 6th seed for a reason. All right. With all due respect, I mean, she's the leader of the group. She is probably the most vengeful, the most driven, the most focused. Where Sarah's really not, where it's not really working out for her is her distraction of the male species. Okay, very easily distracted, seems to be primarily motivated by men in general. So I think if it came down to it, Winifred's a little bit more strong-willed. And like I said, maybe there's a case there, but I think I got to give that one to Winifred. And that concludes round 1. So we're moving on to round 2. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8 contestants remaining. Halloween movie characters. Who's going to win in this fight? Now we get the top 4, okay? So if you've been waiting and you've kind of been like, yo, how is he not mentioned so-and-so? I'm probably about to, all right? So seeds number 1, 2, 3, and 4 all got a first round bye. Opening round is done. Now we move into round 2. So we've got the 8 seed Pennywise going up against the number 1 seed. And I put the number 1 seed as the 1980 Friday the 13th character, Jason Voorhees. So I have number 1 seed is Jason going up against Pennywise. This is actually a fairly interesting matchup to me. You've got 2 movies in the 80s. You've got fairly terrifying in their own right, fairly terrifying characters here. And I think physically, one-on-one altercation, this would be an easy matchup or an easy fight for one character in particular. What I think we should focus on before reaching that point, though, is this an upfront, like, meet you at the playground at 4 o'clock type of fight, or is this something where it's a long-awaited battle, but nobody knows when it's going to happen? Because if that's the case, I think Pennywise could have the ability in terms of the shock and awe. But then again, like, reality comes back to me, you know, this make-believe reality comes back to me, and it's like, okay, but if we're looking at like a one-on-one fight, how is it not Jason, right? Jason's the number 1 seed for a reason. So I'm going to move Jason into the next round. So we're going to put Jason going on to the semifinals. Pennywise is done. Jason, I mean, and let's also not forget classic Halloween costume, right? Simple but iconic, okay? Just giving credit where credit is due, right? All right, so first matchup of the second round, we've got number 1, Jason Voorhees, defeating 8 seed Pennywise, and we go on to the next round where we've got the 5 seed Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this one is messing with me even, because I just put it in there. I didn't think twice. I'm like, we're going to debate it now in the podcast. 5 seed Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, is going to go up against, in the second round, from the 2001 classic hit movie, Harry Potter. Okay, number 4 seed here is Lord Voldemort. Now, a year ago, I would have said, you have some nerve, Colt, putting Harry Potter within the echelon of Halloween movies. But I watched the entire series again. Saga. I watched all of the Harry Potter movies like a week or 2 ago. And I gotta admit, between like the fall leaves and the autumn weather and just the overall ambiance of this season, you turn on a Harry Potter movie, especially that first one. Really, in that first one, I get how it's like, yeah, that's a Harry Potter, or that's a Halloween movie, right? You've got witches and wizards, right? That itself is pretty Halloweenish, but I never really looked at the Harry Potter movies as Halloween ones. I just thought that they were kind of like maybe like a fantasy category. But they've got a lot of Halloween characteristics about it. And so I thought, you know what? Let's do it. And so this is where we have Voldemort, the 4 seed, against Leatherface, the 5 seed. Now, this is a very interesting one because I could actually see, and again, we're not going to know. I'm not even going to know myself until I talk us through the rest of these fights to see how the matchups work out and everything. But, and I honestly, at this point in time, right now, what, about 25 minutes into this podcast, I don't even know right now if I'm going to decide Voldemort or Leatherface. So we're truly, and this is why I don't script this or write out, you know, pre-plan this podcast for the majority, because this is the roaming thoughts. We're going to let them roam. And I, at this moment, would not be surprised if Voldemort could make it all the way to the championship and win this. So let's talk it through, okay? 5 seed Leatherface. You've got this, like, And I'm not saying this is an insult. This is like, go watch the movie from 1974. It's basically like inbred hillbilly, like closet people. And this guy is just super, like, super large and just has a taste for or a motivation to kill, right? Does it help that he uses a chainsaw? Yes. Does it help that he is very creative with his weaponry and the use of it? Yes, very gruesome. Leatherface has a lot going on. Almost has that like inability to recognize pain sometimes, right? Like somebody's going to go swinging at him, really not going to phase him much. We see what happens when maybe other instruments are used, but you're going up against, in 5C Leatherface here, you're going up against large size. Dieability is pretty low. It is a realistic possibility, but I would say, you know, this is not a fragile character, right? Weaponry, very unique. I think out of all of our characters in this battle bracket, this is the only person that uses a gas-powered weapon. So take that for what it is. And then demise, I mean, persistence, I guess, could be the demise here. You look at 4-seed Voldemort, I mean, come on. Depending on how far you want to get in the movies, I mean, you've got somebody, because let's be frank about this. In the first beginning Harry Potter movies, like physically, not much of an intimidation factor here. Towards the end, you realize, okay, now it's a physical embodiment of a wizard. Oh, but by the way, you have to destroy these 7 items in order to even get to the point where he's going to be mortal. So depending on the context with Voldemort, I mean, he's got a lot in his arsenal to back up a confrontation with somebody of Leatherface's stature. I think, you know what, talking this one through, I've already talked myself right into it. Voldemort's going on to the next round, you guys, because I just don't see how, I really don't see how a very large, probably lower IQ villain with a chainsaw, who isn't really all that fast, physically strong, but not incredibly fast, you're going up against a wizard, right? So like a swing of the wand and that chainsaw is up in the air, right? Or Voldemort's using the chainsaw against Leatherface. Like, and then you talk about like escaping, right? Physically escaping a confrontation. Like Voldemort's going to be able to just like, he's out of there. So I'm going to give this one to Voldemort. We're going to go on to the third battle of round 2. We have number 7 from Halloween Town, Calabar, the Warlock, against number 2 seed, Freddy Krueger. Yes, 1984, A Nightmare on Elm Street. You've got Freddy Krueger against Calabar. Interesting here because I wouldn't say Freddy necessarily is using magic, but you're also talking about like unrealistic. Like this isn't Ghostface or Slasher from Scream, right? Like killing in dreams and like being an entity there and then coming into the real, like this is just kind of a different echelon. And I've used that word twice now in a podcast, same episode. So take that for what it is. But we're looking at a little bit of an interesting matchup, right? Because Freddy's not, he's definitely not like a wizard or a warlock where he's got magic, but he definitely has like an X factor, right? Calabar, on the other hand, definitely has magical powers, which comes in quite handy. Like I said, we just saw Voldemort overtake Leatherface, and a huge portion of that went to the fact that Voldemort has magic powers, okay? So we look at Calabar, he's got magic powers. Freddy Krueger, I mean, we've got probably the most, perhaps, it could be close with Leatherface's chainsaw, but I would be willing to say that Freddy Krueger's scissor fingers, or like blade hand, whatever. Yeah, not Edward Scissorhand. He's got like the blade fingers. Is probably the most iconic Halloween horror weapon, I guess. So his ability to attack in his sleep, I mean, I don't know any warlocks personally, but I'm assuming Calabar has to go to bed. And we saw in Halloween Town what he looks like when he's not doing so hot physically. And so I don't think, especially at his age, right? At his age, pulling an all-nighter is going to be a tough one. So I'll actually give this one, I think I'm going to give this one to Freddy Krueger, because I never thought about it, but really that sleep thing is going to be a big one, because unless warlocks don't sleep, like, because like if a warlock is in their dream, can they still use magic? I don't know if that works, but that might change it. That could possibly change it. If he can use magic, but how do you kill him then, right? Well, we know how to kill Freddy Krueger, so here's what's holding me up is that it was a Disney Channel original movie, right? So like really what is Caliber capable of? Geez, you guys, this is a tough one. Freddy Krueger versus Calabar. And I love Nightmare on Elm Street. Even the remake, that was, I like the remake. But we're talking 1984. I stuck with the originals. If you guys are like, oh, geez, you missed so many new movies, call me out on it. I'm sure I did. I'm just kind of sticking with the cold hard classics here. Freddy Krueger, Calabar. I just want to give it to Freddy Krueger because he's so iconic. But if you consider the magic thing, like that could really go far, I think. Jeez. But then where does it stop, right? If we're gonna just go with like, oh, you have to have magical powers, then we kind of know how this could end. And at some point it's gotta stop, right? So if Caliber goes to sleep, well, and that's when Freddy's gonna come out, right? Freddy's gonna come out, then I'm gonna give it to Freddy. Okay. I talked myself into it. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say Warlocks and Wizards gotta sleep. So I'm going to say, yeah, Freddy's going to hang back until the timing is right. And when it's best suited for him to go at Calabar, that's when he's going to do it. So Freddy Krueger moves on to the semifinals. This is the final matchup of round 2, you guys. We have number 6 seed Winifred Sanderson from Hocus Pocus, the leader of the Sanderson sisters, versus number 3 seed from the 1978 title. Named after the holiday, Halloween. We've got Michael Myers, okay? Number 3 seed, Michael Myers versus number 6 seed, Winifred Sanderson. The biggest thing going for Michael Myers is the die ability, right? Can he die? How hard is it to kill him? Things of that nature. And then the biggest thing that Winifred brings is she's got the magical powers. And it didn't work for Calabar. It did work for Voldemort. Where is it going to land for Winifred? Michael Myers. I mean, I'm just looking at, like, again, age, time period, weaponry, size, die ability, demise. If I compare the two, Michael Myers with Winifred, age, I guess Michael Myers. Time period, I'm going to give to Michael Myers as well, because Winifred's coming from, I don't even know, what was it, the 1400s, 1600s? Somewhere, you know, pre-17th or pre-18th century, I guess, right? So time period, I'm going to give Michael Myers the advantage just because of know-how. Weaponry, I'm going to go with the way that Winifred Sanderson uses her powers. You would not, like, it's not the same as Voldemort, right? It's not the same as Calabar. Winifred basically can have a book move to her. She can fly on a broom. She can cast spells, but I don't know if you even saw much of the use of a wand. Now that I recall it, I don't know if you really did. But really, her biggest thing is like making a potion. And then you have to get the other person to drink it, and then you can kill them. So I don't see Michael Myers really going for that. Michael Myers, on the other hand, like it's just going to be done with brute force, right? So weaponry, well, and knives, so not sword, knives. Weaponry, I'll also give to Michael Myers. Size goes to Michael Myers. Dieability, I'm going to give that one to Michael Myers too, because like I said, how difficult is it to kill them, right? And technically, for the Sanderson sisters, they only had from the time the candle was lit to sunrise. So I'm gonna give, yeah, Michael Myers there, and demise. Yeah, this is a pretty straightforward one. 3 seed Michael Myers is gonna go on, and they eliminate Winifred Sanderson. So there are no Sanderson sisters left. We are on to the semifinals. Let me pull it up for those that are watching, so that you guys can see here. Can we do this? Yes, there we go. All right, so you guys can see right now we've got, if it can load, for the semifinals, we have Jason versus Voldemort. We've got Friday the 13th versus Harry Potter, 1980 versus 2001 and on. Jason and Voldemort, this is an interesting one because, again, you've got the use of magic, right? You've got the use of magic, and I think that's going to go a long way. I really do. Jason, I mean, he is still human, right? If we look at, and I'll preface with this, the most recent Friday the 13th I've watched is actually the remake. So I'm trying to make sure that I keep those fairly straight. But I mean, in the end, the character really isn't going to change all that much in terms of like when it comes down to it, who's going to win a fight. But like, there still is that cognition of knowing who they are, what they've gone through, things like that. Voldemort, this is interesting because I'm thinking about how, like, if these two really were face to face, Voldemort really would. It's just like the forbidden spell, is it? Like Avada Kedavra or whatever it is. Like Voldemort's just gonna do that to Jason. But I guess it depends on when are you catching Voldemort? Are you catching him when he's at his weaker state or not? Are you catching him when all of the Horcruxes are still out there? And again, for those like not familiar with Harry Potter, long story short, Voldemort, do I want to ruin it? Come on, yeah, it's been years. Voldemort is immortal because he split his soul into different objects, and as long as those objects aren't destroyed, he can't be killed. So I think that that's probably something important to pull out right now in the semifinals is, context, right? Are the Horcruxes still out there? Is he immortal or not? But again, like we saw with past characters, even in the opening round, like, well, they appeared immortal at times too. So I'm gonna give this one, whatever. Let's ruffle some feathers. This one's gonna go to Voldemort. We're gonna go Voldemort for the one-on-one matchup versus Jason in the semifinals. So Voldemort is actually going to move on to the finals, the 4 seed from Harry Potter. We're going to put him on to the next round, and he is there. So going back to the final matchup of the semifinals, and then we reach the finals, we have Freddy Krueger, the 2 seed from A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, versus 1978 Halloween, Michael Myers. This is probably one of the more fun matchups for me because you have 2 classic movies, all-time classics, right? 2 iconic Halloween characters, villains. And I feel like they bring a lot of equality to the table in terms of like what could kill him, what could keep him alive, what are their advantages, where are their disadvantages, right? Freddy Krueger. So let's be frank about this. Age, I'm going to give to Michael Myers. Time period, I guess I'll default to Freddy Krueger because we're talking 6 years further into the future from the original Halloween. So I'll give that one. So they split it there. Weaponry, I'm going to go with probably Freddy Krueger here because the hands, right? I couple the razor hands plus attacking in somebody's dreams. Size-wise, though, you go back to Michael Myers. Dieability, again, how many times did they think Michael Myers was dead? And how difficult is it to kill Freddy Krueger? So I would say that could go either way. Could be a little bit of a wash. And then you look at the demise, and you've got with Freddy Krueger, there's like the initial fear, and then it's almost like a communal like motivation for revenge on Freddy Krueger. Where with Michael Myers, you have kind of this like urban legend type, I don't know, myth about him. Okay, so demise, I would actually give Michael Myers the benefit there. So just looking at the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories or topics of consideration, we're at Michael Myers with the advantage right now, but let's look at who's going to win in a fight, right? Michael Myers is probably going to move a little bit slower. Freddy Krueger, I feel, is perhaps more agile. If I'm looking at one-on-one here, let's just say, even in Michael Myers' dreams, I still like his chances here. I really like his chances. And he did win the consideration on the topics. I think he could take him. I really do. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. We're gonna put Michael Myers, advancing into the next round. So this is kind of cool because it didn't work out as I was fearing. We've got the 1 and the 2 seed are out of this right here. So that leaves us down to the finals for who would win in a fight, Halloween movie characters for the championship. The 4 seed, Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter, versus the 3 seed, Michael Myers from Halloween. Let's get into it. Okay. Again, on the surface, physical stature is really helping Michael Myers' case. It's funny that it didn't necessarily benefit Jason against Voldemort. So kind of looking at the history of what's happened throughout this tournament of Halloween movie characters, we should be seeing Voldemort, going on, possibly winning the championship here. But let's also make sure we do our due diligence. So Voldemort, let's look at the track record, okay? Got a first round bye, went up against Leatherface. Physically intimidating character, perhaps one of the most violent uses of weaponry, and I think those are probably the 2 biggest things with Leatherface. Okay, so Voldemort goes past Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre in round 2, faces up against Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, and almost in a similar fashion, it ironically enough, throughout all 3 of their matchups, Voldemort really kind of faces similar characters, just with different weaponry, right? Jason and Michael Myers being probably the most similar, I would say, but it's very funny now that I look at this, like Voldemort kind of went up against the same 3. And so that I think is very telling. Now we look at Michael Myers, who did they go up against, right? First round bye, comes into round 2 against Winifred Sanderson. Clearly more physically capable, right? But is tested. I feel like out of between Voldemort and Michael Myers, Myers gets the most variety in terms of who their enemy is. Okay, Winifred Sanderson, female witch. Freddy Krueger, burned up male. Is he alive? Is he dead? He's in his dreams. Totally different, like, repertoire of an enemy. Okay, and then you get into now they're facing Lord Voldemort. So on paper, Michael Myers actually looks pretty good because it appears as though they can handle a diverse set of opponents. Okay, Voldemort, Michael Myers for the championship. Jeez, I mean, Michael Myers, like Harry Potter, right? Harry Potter kind of had this just almost annoyance of a determination, right? Persistent. And throughout the series of the Harry Potter movies, it clearly had waned on Voldemort. Michael Myers, if you follow these Halloween movies, also somewhat of a persistent, perhaps antagonist to those they're interacting with. So a little similarity there. Again, it's when do you catch Voldemort, right? Are you catching him at his weak point in the early Harry Potters? Is it towards the end when he's mortal? Or is it somewhere in that middle where, you know, building strength, building that army, currently immortal? And then with Michael Myers, what is Voldemort going to bring, right? Is it as simple as, you know, there's not that connection, right? There's not that connection that he had with Harry Potter where he can kind of like push himself into Michael Myers' thoughts and things of that nature. So there's no real like advantage aside from if Voldemort had connections to know where Michael Myers was. So it really comes down to when these two are face to face, what's going to happen? Michael Myers, that dieability comes back again. Dieability, is it realistic that you can kill them once and that's it? And same, you know, if you look at Voldemort, do you have to kill him with magic? Could you physically just kill him? Yeah, you know, if you look at all of the entire field of competitors here, I almost think this one, it's got to go to Voldemort. I got to do it. It's got to go to Voldemort. As much as I feel like you could make a case and say easily why there's no way that it could be, because, you know, if you consider these characters, right? How many of these characters survived the movie that they were in, right? So if you look at it on that sense, I mean, good luck finding one. I'm sure you guys could call me out on it, but I think that part is not enough of a reason to try to judge who would win and who would lose. Now let's think about Halloween, right? The holiday, witches, vampires, zombies, serial killers, what have you. It helps to have magic, right? It helps to have magic. And I think magic in the end is going to be kind of that X factor that, unfortunately, as nice of a pick as it would have been to take, you know, one of the top three, perhaps the most well-known, whether it's Jason, Freddy Krueger, Mike Myers, we're going to go with Voldemort. We're going to say Halloween movie characters, who would win in a fight? I'm going to put my money on Voldemort. And again, this is, look at the matchups, right? You got to look at the matchups and see for yourself. If they were in, if it was a different order, if it went a different route, would it still be the same? Honestly, if I'm looking at Voldemort, let's say it's all 12 against each other at the exact same time, I'm going to want somebody with magical powers. So I'm going to go Voldemort again. So that's it, you guys. hopefully you enjoyed it. This is season 2 now of the Roaming Thoughts podcast. We are going to do one other Halloween episode, whether it comes out on Halloween or if we do it, tomorrow, whenever. We are going to do one more, and it is going to kind of fall in line with one of the, I guess, mini series that I did back in season 1. So you'll have to come back and find out which one it is. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, I'm excited for season 2. So we'll see. Thanks.